Having a wonderful afternoon, and maybe if you're not, I can lift you up a little bit, cheer you up, give you a little inspiration. I really do hope that you are doing well though, and are looking forward to that weekend because it is right over the horizon. But before we get to that weekend, I've got a project for you guys that I think that you guys are going to enjoy. I've got a lot of fun things in the show today. Looking forward to going through all of those things with you. Hi Bonnie, how are you? First one in. Hi Jacqueline, it's good to see you. How are you guys doing out there? Hi Patricia. Oh my goodness, Becky's here, Alma's here, everybody's in the house. I love it. I love it. Hi, Donna. All right, everybody. So let's get right into our housekeeping, and then we're going to get right into the project because this is a fun one, and I think you're going to really enjoy this one for sure. But before we get to that, like I said, let's go through the housekeeping, guys. First things first, you are going to notice on the side of your screen a shopping bag. When you see that shopping bag, you can click it at any point. You can click it now if you want to, just to try it out. You can click the shopping bag, and it's going to bring up all of the information about all of the items that I have in today's show. You're going to get to see the specs, what the sizes are, the lengths are, all of those things, as far as like, you know, all of the information about the products themselves, right? And you can add those to your cart as well as check out, all while still watching the show. It's just going to make me smaller. And after you check out and you close out that cart, you can click on me and it will make me big again. So you don't have to miss anything, which is nice because you don't have to navigate away. Sometimes when we navigate away, we have a hard time finding our way back. So we like to make that easy for you here on Art Beads and keep you from having to wander around aimlessly online trying to find your way back here again, because that happens. It does happen. Now, if you do have to leave for whatever reason, life happens. I understand how that goes. You can always come back and watch this as a video on demand. Excuse me, putting a little desk robot in the drawer. I forgot he was out. He was about to start singing. So, always keeping it real here, you guys. Always keeping it real. You can at any point watch this as a video on demand, and that is particularly helpful for the times when you have ordered the products from the show. A couple days go by before they show up on your doorstep, and then maybe you need to be re-inspired or you would like to see the project again. The great part about that is that you can fast forward through all of the housekeeping and you can get right to the project, right to the step that you need to recreate the project. All right, couple of things. If you don't mind, guys, during the show today to hit those heart buttons anytime you see something that you love, whether it is a product or a technique or you're just having a good time, hitting those heart buttons is a great way to let me know that number one, you're out there and that you're paying attention. And number two, that I'm giving you content that you love, and I will continue to do so as long as you're giving those hearts, right? It's just like a little feedback for me. All right, and if you would like to further share the love, which we always encourage you to do so, if you don't mind to share this in places where you are available or where you are able, rather, to do that. So if you're part of a Facebook group that allows you to share these kinds of videos, or you just want to share this on your own social media feed, it is a great way, virtual word of mouth, right? It is a great way to reach other makers who don't know about us yet, or makers who don't even know that they're makers yet, and those exist, right? And a lot of times all it takes is just a little bit of encouragement. So if we could like bring them into our community and open their eyes to all of the wonderful things that are available on the Art Beads website, all of the creativity, all of the projects, all of the fun, all of the sparkle, right? Virtual word of mouth is the very best way to do that. So if you don't care to help us spread the word about all of the fun things going on here at Art Beads, we would really, really appreciate it. Oh, Dawn is here, Dorothy's here, Wanda's in the house, guys. Trouble has arrived in the best way. Good trouble, only good trouble with Wanda. Only the best kind of trouble. Though I wonder if it's the kind of trouble that you need bail money for. I'm not sure. I do know that if Wanda and I hung out in person, it would probably require something of the sort, or at least a getaway car. Maybe, I don't know. I'm just guessing. All right. So, speaking of seeing each other in person, would you like an opportunity to do that? I just so happen to have one if you're interested. I have, well, this is not my announcement to make. I just have an exciting thing to tell you about. It's not my announcement. But guys, the cat is finally out of the bag. Art Beads is going to be at BeadFest this year in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. Guys, the dates for that are July 31st through August the 3rd. And myself, as well as the other amazing designers here at Art Beads, we are putting together a little workshop. Tickets are available right now over on the BeadFest website, and we would love to have you guys join us. 100% would love for you to be there if you can be. I know some of you have already purchased your tickets and are making your plans to be there with us at BeadFest. It's going to be a whole lot of fun. You're going to get a whole lot of projects. You're also going to have the opportunity to hang out with us after hours at a Beads and Bubbles happy hour event. It's going to be a whole lot of fun, guys. The seats are limited though, so you definitely don't want to wait around too long on that, because they are limited availability seats, and once they are gone for good. So then you'll just have to wait until we come back around again next year. But if you want to come and hang out with us and have a good time, we're going to be doing live demonstrations on the stage. We're going to be teaching classes. We're just going to be hanging out and having a good time with you guys and talking about beads and sparkle. Who does not want to be a part of that? So if you can come and join us at BeadFest, please take advantage of that right now and get your tickets before the tickets are sold out. We'd love to have you. We really, really would. Wanted to let me know if you're coming. I can go ahead and start putting my bell money aside. I'll make a jar. I'll make us a jar, okay? All right, guys, couple of other things. Let's see. The newsletter. So if you were signed up for the newsletter, you'd already know about BeadFest. Guys, if you don't mind to take a second to go over to the Art Beads website and sign up for that newsletter, it is the #1 best way to stay involved and in the know of all things that are Art Beads related. Signing up for that newsletter means that you are also going to know about all of the deals, all of the sales, all of the fun things. Sometimes there's a flash sale, sometimes there's an extra live, and of course information about things like BeadFest that are going to be coming to that newsletter. And let me tell you something, the second half of this year is going to be full of exciting things at Art Beads, and you don't want to miss any of that at all. So be sure you're signing up for that newsletter, as well as checking that website as often as possible. All right, couple of other things. Another great way to stay in the know is to sign up for the Facebook group that is Serious Art Beaders on Facebook. You want to come and hang out there, see what other art beaders are doing with all of their beautiful beady goodness, get inspired, share your creativity with everyone, and stay in the know. All right, I think that is it. The last thing I do want to mention is that if you are joining us on Facebook or YouTube, we try to make it easy for you to shop as well. You're going to get a little box in the top of your screen where you can type in the codes for the items, and you're going to get a link sent directly to your messenger. That's going to be an easy way for you to shop. However, keep in mind that if you are shopping that way, we can't see any of your comments. So if you want to be a part of the conversation and you want to come and hang out and be part of the big show, come over to Art Beads and watch that way. It's the easiest way to shop, but it is also the best way to stay in with the conversation that's going on. I definitely want to see all your comments and want to hang out with you. So if you want to make your way over, that's great. If not, you can stay right where you are. Like I said, you can shop that way too, but I just can't see your comments. All right. Wanda says, I'm waiting for a Left Coast event. Eric, listen, it's on the list. It's on the list of things. Don't worry. We're going to make our way around. Don't you worry. Don't you worry. I'll put that bell money to good use. Anybody just tuning in is like, what is happening right now? All right, friends, so I've got a fun project for you guys. This is actually a 3-for-1. We're going to be putting together a couple of pairs of easy earrings using a couple of my favorite tools. So I'm going to turn you around. We're going to talk beads, we're going to talk materials, and we're going to get right into it. Okay, so let us discuss some things. I've got 2 tools in the show today that I think you guys are going to enjoy. And I'm going to bring this one out and you're going to go, what is that? Because mine doesn't look anything like the one that you're looking at. This is a Conetastic. It doesn't look like anything except maybe a weapon, something to defend yourself with in a dark alley. What is happening to the show today? Oh my gosh. You guys, this is the Conetastic, and this is just kind of to let you know how long I've had a Conetastic. I've had a Conetastic since before Conetastics were available on the market to buy. That's why mine doesn't look like a regular Conetastic. The one that you're going to see over on the Art Beads website and the one that you see most frequently has a nice green handle. Mine does not, because this was one of the prototypes when they were very first being thought of. Let me show you how it works. You're going to unscrew the bottom of this. And again, yours has a green handle, mine does not. On the inside of this, you are going to find 3 cones and an Allen key. And how handy is that? Everything fits inside the tool, which I absolutely love because I can't keep up with things. Like if you've seen this room, you know, it's a hot mess. I cannot keep up with anything. So the fact that I can just put all of this right back in here and it is all in one place makes it super convenient. So you've got 3 different size cones and the Allen key, which is how you are going to attach your cone mandrel to the top of this. So essentially what you're looking at is a handle. And the handle's got a place to put a mandrel. And these mandrels just so happen to be cone shaped. You use the Allen key here to loosen this up so that you can slide your little cone mandrel down into the spot. What's going on with mine? Well, it probably could be because I'm going the wrong way. Or I'm not. Just need to grease mine up a little bit. I've had this forever, so it might be time for me to get a new one. Tell me it's not so. I want to keep the one I've got. Oh my goodness, guys. Come on now. It's definitely a Friday. You can always tell when it's Friday or Monday. Can you tell? Oh my goodness. So we're going to unscrew this because lefty loosey, for whatever reason, my brain's not letting me do that today. You're going to slide this down. You can see the cone, the little mandrels they've got a flat spot on them. See that flat spot? You want to slide that down facing the opening here, and then you're going to use your Allen key to tighten that back up so that now it is stable. You don't want this guy to wiggle and wobble around on you. You want it to be nice and stable. And now you can take wire to create a cone, right? And you can do this with 3 different sizes and get 3 different size cones. Let me give you some little examples here. Okay. So with your small mandrel, you can be able to get a very small, skinny cone. And then the medium one's going to give you a medium-sized cone, and then your large one's going to give you a larger cone. Now, some of you may be asking, why on earth do I need a cone? What would I do with a cone? I'm glad you're wondering that, because there actually is a ton of things that you can do with these. Not only are they cool visually, you can add these as the tops to everything. You can add them to tops of tassels. You can add them to the tops of multi-strand designs. You can add them to the tops of kumihimo. It's a really nice way to cover up the ugly. You guys know sometimes when you've got a multi-strand design and you've got it all bundled together, it's not super pretty. So a cone is a great way to cover up an ugly, but they're also really cool all on their own. So if you wanted to use these as design elements, right? If you wanted to use this as a focal, as a pendant, you can do that. So many different things that you can do with a cone. It just makes it a fun little tool to have around. And if you are somebody who likes to work with wire, this is definitely going to be a fun one for you. And you can get really creative with these. And I'm going to show you how to do that today. I'm going to use this in combination with the wire coiling gizmo, which is one of my other favorite things to play with to create some wire coils. And then you can take those wire coils, put them on a piece of wire, and create a cone with them. So I'm going to show you all of that. Let me give you the sneak peek of the 3 little pieces of jewelry we're going to create after we play with the Conetastic by itself for a second. So we're going to be creating beautiful crystal earring here with the Conetastic and the wire coiling gizmo. Okay, so that's an option. I've got this one where I've used a medium-sized cone. You can see the beads on the inside. That is an option. And then you can also layer them up with other wires. So that's an option as well. So there's a lot of fun things you can do with cones, guys. They're not just for topping tassels, because I feel like that's what most people think of with the Conetastic is topping a tassel. No, you can do so many other things with them, and you can get really creative and come up with some really fun things to do with these. Now, this is kind of heavy for an earring, but you definitely could wear it as a pendant if you wanted to, make sun catchers out of them. Lots and lots of fun ways to play with the Conetastic. So I'm going to show you how to do all of these today. So you're going to get all 3 of these projects because they're going to go by pretty quickly. Before we do that though, let's talk about the beads that I do have in the show, because they are definitely worth taking an individual look at. This is that crystal in the earring, the big purple earring. Look at this. Look at this cone bead. This is super cool because it's got this concave side to it, which means that you could set other beads inside there if you wanted to and use this as like the top of something. I've turned mine upside down, kind of using it the same way you would like a ice cream cone, and put my wire coiled cone on the top of that. This would look really pretty on the ends of some things, or just looks beautiful all by itself because wow, it's just gorgeous. Along with that one, we've got an Artemis bead. These are some of my favorites as well. And this is in a really cool color. It's not quite red. It's not quite orange. Again, it has that concave bottom to it, or top, depending on which direction you've got it, so that you can set beads in there if you wanted to, or other things, right? Super, super cute. This one is faceted all the way around. So it's got that nice, the way it catches the light is really, really nice. I've got a drop bead today that I'm using. This is going to be on the bottom of this guy. Another beautiful crystal in beautiful purple with the AB finish. Lots of sparkle in the show. And then, of course, I've got some bicones in a couple of different sizes. So I've got some 4mm bicones. I've got some 5mm bicones. And I've got some 6mm bicones. Just really pretty. I just wanted to have lots of sparkle and fun in the show to go with our cones. Now that doesn't mean that you can't take these cones in a totally different direction. If you wanted to make more boho, kind of more earthy designs, you could, instead of mixing your cones with sparkly crystals, you could mix these with gemstones, you could mix them with leather, you can mix them with just about anything. So you can get a whole lot of different looks, a lot of different styles from your cones. They don't just have to be something sparkly. I'm just usually drawn to sparkle. That's usually what comes out of my fingertips, but you 100% can turn a cone into anything. So, all right, guys. So let's talk about the Conetastic. We're going to start with it. We're going to make a couple of cones, okay? And then we're going to make a coil on the coiling gizmo, and then we're going to mix the two together. Now, I know I've already shown you what these look like, the different sizes of the cones, but I think it's worth it to see them in action before we move into the actual projects, okay? So for me, I'm just going to practice with some 20 gauge rose gold wire here, okay? And cut quite a long length of this here. And I'm going to show you how to make a cone, okay? Because I mean, that is kind of what we're here to do. Right? All right, so on the tool, I have the smallest mandrel, okay? You're going to take your wire, whatever wire you're using. It takes about 18 to 20 inches to make a cone, okay? Now, the bigger the cone and the more intricate you get with this, you're going to need more wire. But for a slender cone, you're going to need about 18 to 20 inches of wire. And I like to use dead soft wire for this over the German style wire, just because it is nice and malleable. Okay, so you stick the wire through there, and then you're going to bend the wire down, and then I like to hold on to it with my finger, and then I'm going to turn the tool. Now you can turn the wire or you can turn the tool, whichever one works for you, whatever is more comfortable. But I'm going to turn the tool, and I'm also going to use my index finger and my thumb on my dominant hand to guide the wire. So I'm holding the wire and I'm really pushing up against my finger here just to make sure that everything is nice and consistent. The tension is consistent, the twisting is consistent, the pull that I have on the wire between my index finger and my thumb is consistent as well. And you're just going to spin this around until you get to the top and you have made yourself a cone. So I see there's a comment or a question here. Christy Christy has a question. She says, hi again. Hi, Christy. It's good to see you. Let's see. It says, I am trying to learn how, but having some issues. What gauge and metal do you use for your eye pins? So it really is exactly like Eric said. You guys, we're teaching Eric how to make jewelry. He has no idea, but it's happening. It's happening. Because he answered this question. He says, I think it depends on what you're making, but she's the expert, as are many of the other people here in the chat. But he's exactly right. It really kind of depends on what it is that you're making. However, I do have a go-to gauge for everything, and that's 22 gauge. Now, you could ask the person sitting next to me, if there was somebody sitting next to me, you could ask them what gauge wire they would use, and they would probably say 20 if they didn't say 22. Those two are the top most used gauge wires in just about everything, 20 and 22. However, industry standard is actually 21 gauge, which is weird because it's hard to buy wire in 21 gauge. Nobody does that. You buy 22 or 20 gauge, and that's going to get almost all of your head pin and eye pin needs met, because you can make knotted head pins with it. You can make your eye pins with it. However, if you're dealing with a bead that has a little bit smaller of a drill hole, 24 gauge is definitely the way to go. So there's a place for all of the gauges. And again, just like Eric said, it really depends on what it is that you're making. But generally speaking, 22 and 20 gauge are going to be your go-tos. And for me, I use German wire for those things because it is a medium temper wire. It's got a little bit harder, tougher structure than a dead soft wire. It really retains its shape much better. All right, now once you've got your cone, you can see I came in with my cutter tool and just snipped the wire right where we had inserted it into the cone itself, or into the mandrel part rather. And then you're just going to wiggle and you're going to slide that off, and you've got yourself a cone here. Now, this cone might not be the shape that you're going for, or it might be too long. And there's a lot of other things you can do. So the first thing that you can do is you can clean up your end, because you don't want to get this hung on anything. You can either trim it with your flush cutter and make it a nice flush cut, or you can take your pliers and very gently tuck that to the inside. So now it is not going to be sticking out at all. But now what if you needed a smaller cone or a shorter, whoa, I'm making up words now, shorter cone? You can actually come in here with your fingernails or with your tools or whatever you want, and you can separate this out. And you can cut this at any length that you want. Right? So now we have a short cone that's really wide. It's got a large hole on it. Or you can have a little narrow cone. So you can cut these apart, get more than one cone from coiling around the mandrel, right? Lots and lots of size availability. You could cut this really short if you wanted to. You can leave it long, totally up to you. Depends on what it is that you are going to be making, right? So that was the small one. Let's go up. Let's go up to the next one. So we're going to take this one out, and we are going to put in the medium one. Now, here's something that I want you to know, because it is worth talking about before you get your Conetastic home and you are a little upset by it. Let me tell you something. Is I had to make peace with this. Like I said, I've had this tool a million years, obviously. The bigger the cone, the harder it is to get a seamless, let me just knock everything over here, to get a seamless cone, okay? And it doesn't matter how hard you try, okay? If you use a single piece of wire, you're not going to get a solid cone on the next two large mandrels. You're just not going to. It's unless you are the Incredible Hulk and can put the most insane amount of tension and pressure on the wire, you will not get a solid cone. So what you're going to end up with is a cone that you can see into. Now that is a design challenge for some or an opportunity for others. It really just kind of depends on how you look at it. But I don't want you to get your Conetastic home and think, I'm going to make one of those big, I'm going to use the largest mandrel and I'm going to get this solid big cone out of it. You're not going to be able to do that. Physics does not allow that to happen. It's just not possible. But the way we can get a solid cone out of that is by using something like the coiling gizmo to coil wire. Then you can get a more solid cone, right? You can also get a solid cone by using really thick gauged wire. However, we're talking about, 10 gauge wire. That's really difficult to work with. Nicole gets mad at me if I use 18 gauge wire. So if I even just like showed her a package of 10 gauge wires, she'd probably stop talking to me for 6 months. So don't think that you're going to get this home and get solid cones out of the bigger ones. You're just not going to. And that's not a bad thing. It means that you're going to have to come up with some fun things to do to get those. And that's why I like to use the wire coiling gizmo. Okay. So I am going to show you though, these cones, and I don't let it stop me, right? Check it out. I use it as an opportunity to show off. Look at those beautiful beads inside there. Like that is really cool. This looks like an artisan, earring, something you would find in a little boutique downtown. This is not like machine manufactured. So I think that it gives everything personality. All right, so I'm going to show you how to, Nicole says, not true, 3 months at the most. All right. So I'm going to use this medium, the medium one, same thing. You slide your wire through there, bend it down, hold it, and then you're going to start turning, and you're going to see kind of the point at which things start to separate. So twisting it around, and the higher up the cone you go, the more spaces you're going to have, which you can see, right? All right, and then the same thing, we're going to come in with our cutter. We're going to trim off the wire right at the tip. Hold on. Conversations between Eric and Wanda crack me up. All right, and then I'm going to trim that and free it from the mandrel. And I don't care that it's not a solid cone. I think that's beautiful. It's really pretty. Gives me the opportunity to put beads on the inside. It just adds a little decorative element. You can even layer your cones together if you wanted to, which is really fun, right? That's super cool. Pop a little bead in there if you wanted to. You can always stretch things out, make them even longer if you wanted to. Now think holidays, think Christmas trees, right? You could do some really cool Christmas tree designs. You could do some really cool steampunk looking designs as well. So get creative with this and really embrace the open spaces in between there, because it's an opportunity to create dimension with your pieces by putting layers in. So, all right. And then I'm going to do the big one just to show you. And then we're going to move on to the wire coiling gizmo. Now the big one is the hardest out of all of them to create a cone with. Just being honest with you now, it's not hard. It's a little tricky because it is such a big cone. And I feel like when I'm twisting with it, I kind of lose control of the wire a little bit. I don't like that. I'm a control freak. I gotta have a hold of everything, but yeah. Okay. All right. So same thing, spinning around, and then immediately you can see the spacing that comes into play. And go a little slower here. So you can see how that comes on. And every time I do a big one, Every single time I do one of the large ones, they all come out differently. They all look different. Which again, is not necessarily a bad thing. It depends on what it is that you're going to do with them. But I think that's just a really fun opportunity to hang dangles, right? And coming from underneath here. Hang some beads. I love it. Love it. Lots of fun. Okay, I'm going to put the medium mandrel back on this. Did I use the medium or the large? I must have used the large. We'll leave the large on here, I guess. Now we're going to use the wire coiling gizmo. Now I've got just the basic version of the wire coiling gizmo, okay? Very, very, very basic version. This is the version where you can actually hold this in your hand. There are a couple of other versions of this, but this is the only one that's available on the website at the moment. You're going to hold on to this, and you've got your two little cranks to choose from here. I'm going to use the smallest one, and basically thread this through, okay? And then we're going to attach our wire, and we are going to create a little crank, and we are going to coil up about 7 to 8 inches of wire, okay? Now I'm going to show you how to do that. So I'm going to be using, I'll show you on the sample here, I was using the 26 gauge amethyst art beads wire, that beautiful purple. That's what I'm going to be using. So 26 gauge gives you a really small, tiny, tiny little coil, but you can use any gauge that you want to. But let me show you. I don't cut a length. I use it directly from the spool. Exactly. Wanda says, even if your cone doesn't come out the way you want, save it and you'll likely find a use for it later. I have a whole little drawer that's full of cones, and I grab them all the time. So that is 100% the truth. Because there's always an opportunity to use a cone in something, and it really just, you know, because your cones are all different, you never know which one's going to work for what. Okay, so I'm going to take my wire, the end of my wire, it's still attached to the spool, but I'm going to take a little tail end of the wire here, and I'm going to wrap it around this little bump section of my tool. Okay, so that now it is connected. You can do like a twisty tie if you want to, whatever you want to do. I just kind of wrap mine around and then smash it with my fingers. All right, I'm going to put this in, and I'm going to bring this over here. Now, to get started, you're going to have to kind of guide the wire the same way you were guiding the wire on the Conetastic, using your index finger and your thumb to kind of guide the wire to get it started. But you see how I'm holding it between my two fingers? I'm holding the tool in my hand, and then I'm using my dominant hand to twist the wire, right? I'm going to twist, 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 and then I can push it over, because I want to use as much of the mandrel as I possibly can. But here in the beginning, I'm going to do it out here and then just slide it over. So even if there are gaps in it, I'll slide it right over. Okay. And then you're just going to keep going. Okay, depending on how much you need, I'm going to do the entire thing, because I need as much of the coil as possible to make my cone. And coiled wire, this is not the only use for coiled wire, by the way. You can create all kinds of fun things with coiled wire. This is just one of the many possibilities when it comes to using the wire coiling gizmo and making a coil of wire. You can actually make your own coiled beads. You can make little sections, you know, for necklaces and earrings. It's really, there's lots of uses for coils other than just what we're doing today. So again, just twisting away here, and you can see it's getting longer and longer, and I'm going to use up the entire length. And I'm just letting the spool of the wire is really just resting in my lap. And I'm just kind of letting gravity manage that. And I'm just using my fingers as a guide. Okay. So getting closer to the end. And it really doesn't take very long at all, which is another thing about this that I really, really like. Because if I were to sit and just hand coil, it could take 30 minutes or more. This takes a fraction of that amount of time, and you've got a whole long coiled piece. And you can see my rod is getting shorter and shorter, and we're about to come up to the end of the tool. Okay, so I'm going to take this off of the tool and I'm going to sit this over here to the side, and I'm actually going to hand coil the rest of this just so that I get as much coiled wire as possible. So I'll coil a little bit and then push it over. Coil and then push it over. All right. Coil it up, push it over. Just so that I've got as much as possible. Now, even if I don't use all of the coil, just like Wanda said with the cones, take the rest of your coiled wire and put it somewhere, because sometimes you need just a little short section of coiled wire. So I save all of my coiled scraps. You can see I've got them right here. This was my leftovers. These are some of my leftovers. I just keep them because you never know when you need them, and they're already coiled, so you don't have to take the time to recoil if you don't want to. Okay, so now that I have done all of that, I'm going to take this off of the coiling gizmo. Just the same way we did with the Conetastic. We're just going to trim the wire. To release it from the mandrel. Okay. And then I'm going to trim up the ends so my ends are nice and clean. And now I have a whole long section that is essentially a tube, right? Which we're going to use to our advantage, because we are now going to turn around and put this onto a 20 gauge piece of wire. So I'm going to take a nice long piece of 20 gauge artistic wire, and I am going to swap this out for the medium mandrel instead of the large. Let me take this off of here. I can do it with both, but I kind of prefer the medium. I'll reattach this guy. Okay, so I'm going to take my 20 gauge piece of wire here, and I'm going to take my end and I'm going to stick it through there. Okay, bend it down, and I'm going to start coiling. And I'm going to coil around 2 or 3 times, and then I'm going to hold on to that nice and tight, and I'm going to come down here to the other end of my wire, and I'm going to thread my coiled wire onto that. Okay, and then I'm going to drop that down, and now I'm going to use the wire with the coil on it to go around the cone. So just coiling around and around till I've created exactly what I want. Now I've got more coil than I need, so I'm gonna actually come in here and separate that out with my fingers. And then I'm gonna use my cutter tool to trim just the coiled wire first. Okay, so I can pull that off. Now I've got a little scrap piece. And then I'm going to trim my inner wire too. And I can clean all this up here in just a second. Come down here to the bottom, trim to release it from the Conetastic. And now I can kind of tidy it up a little bit to make it look exactly like I want it to look. Now I've got this really cool coiled wire cone, and I do need to clean that up like I mentioned, so I'm going to trim that, and I'm going to trim that. And it's essentially a bead because it's got a hole through it, right? All right, I'm going to take, I'm actually going to trim off some of this bottom wire because I don't really need that. You can take an inner circle and kind of tuck it, right? Now we've got a little purple cone, and we can do any number of things with it. So you can thread it on to an eye pin, a head pin. I did use the larger one for this guy. That's okay, because I've got another one that's right here that we can use for our earring. This one's a little messy, but it'll be okay, right? But you get the idea, right? And you can tell the difference between the bigger one and the medium sized one. All right, so to make an earring, let's make an earring real quick, right? We're gonna make a little, not a little, this is a big earring, but we're gonna cut a 22 gauge piece of wire here. We're gonna do a wrapped loop, and we're gonna build the earring. And then I'm gonna show you two other quick earrings that you can make with the Conetastic as well. Okay, so cut ourselves a little bit of the 22 gauge wire. And we are going to come down on the wire about an inch, inch and a half, bend the wire. Okay, we're going to come in with our round nose pliers, go up and over, rotate the wire, take the wire over to the other side, and we're going to wire wrap in that space. So essentially we are creating an eye pin with a wrapped loop. Okay, come in with our cutter. We're going to trim off the excess. Okay, now I'm going to take my big, beautiful crystal bead here, and I'm going to thread that on, just like that. And then I'm going to take my cone and I'm going to thread that on over the top of that. Right, and then at the top of that, I'm going to add a little 4mm bicone. You don't have to add anything here if you don't want to, but I'm going to add a little 4mm bicone to sit right on the top of that, and then I'm going to do a wrapped loop. So I'm going to come in with my cutter tool, or not my cutter tool, my chain nose pliers. My goodness, I don't want to use my cutter tool, not yet. Okay. Coming in with the round nose pliers that I literally just had in my hand. Making a mess on the bead mat today. I try to keep things tidy, but today is not one of those days. Rotate, dig the wire over to the other side, and then we're going to wire up in that space. Make sure everything is nice and secure. We're going to trim off our excess wire, right? We can add an ear wire to the top of this, which I'm going to just go ahead and do now, and then we can put our little drop bead on the bottom. If you hear all that chaos in the background, that is my husky attacking a cardboard box. So at least she's not barking, right? I don't care if she attacks the box. As long as she's being quiet about it, it's totally fine. But I'm going to take that little drop that I showed you guys earlier, put that onto a head pin. We're going to do a simple loop here. You could do a wrapped loop if you wanted to, but I'm just going to bend the wire right where it is exiting the bead. Come in with my cutter tool, going to trim off, leaving myself about 1/4 of an inch of wire. Then I'm going to use my round nose pliers to grab that wire and roll back to create my closed loop. Then I'm going to use my chain nose pliers, grab that same loop, twist to open it, thread that onto the bottom of our earring and twist to close. And you've got a cute little earring, not little, big. You've got a cute big earring. Those are so fun. Those are party appropriate. Maybe even Beads and Bubbles happy hour appropriate. Should you like to join us over at BeadFest for our after hours happy hour? I might be wearing something extra sparkly for an event like that. That is this, all over the place. So sparkly, so pretty. Beads and Bubbles. Beads and Bubbles. All right, now I've got another 2 quick pairs of earrings to show you guys, just so that, you know, we covered all of our cone bases today, right? Okay, let's do one with that medium. Since it's already on here, let's do one using the medium mandrel, and we're going to be using some of that beautiful rose gold colored wire. Let me cut a piece of that. All right, so we're going to create our cone the same way we did with the others, putting the wire through, bending it, holding it down, okay? And now we're just going to start coiling. All right, coiling around. I love rose gold wire. So pretty. Okay, now we're going to trim. I'll wrap around one more time at the top. Okay, coming in with my cutter. I'm going to trim. Oops. And then I'm going to come down here on the bottom. I'm also going to trim. I'm going to release that from the tool. Okay. Now I'm going to take an eye pin. First, let's make our little dangle first. Okay. So we're going to take a 6mm bicone and we're going to put that onto a head pin, just like we did with our drop on the other earring. Oh my goodness. Now she's choking on cardboard box. Oh my goodness. Okay. You would think I was running a doggy daycare here, I'm telling you. We're going to bend the wire. So I'm just doing a simple loop here, bending the wire where it is exiting the bead. Cutter tool. Oh my goodness. So embarrassing. And I'm going to grab the wire with my round nose pliers. I'm going to roll back to close up. Well, I didn't, but I am going to close up my loop. That is one ugly loop, you guys. Look at this. Oh my goodness. This is a perfect example of an ugly loop to show you that it doesn't matter how many loops you make in your lifetime, okay? It doesn't matter that I have made a bazillion, that's a technical term, a bazillion, it's officially a number, loops in my lifetime. Sometimes they don't look good. They just don't. There's no rhyme or reason to it. Sometimes they look great. Sometimes they don't. Give yourself grace. It's totally okay if your loops don't look great, because you know what? Once we put all this together, nobody's going to notice that at all. I pointed it out to you, but in the end, you're not even going to notice it. I'm going to take an eye pin. I'm going to twist to open my eye pin, and I'm going to thread on that ugly little loop that we just made together. I'm not ashamed of it. I'm going to close it back. All right, and now I'm going to load this up with some beads. So I'm going to put on my Artemis bead, okay? And then I'm going to thread on 3 5mm bicones. Exactly, Nicole. Couldn't have said it better myself. All right, I'm going to thread on these beautiful bicones. What a cool color combination. I love that. And then put the rose gold on top of that. Yep. That is some sassy color right there. And then we're just going to do a simple loop and add an ear wire, and these are done. I am in love with these earrings. They're so cool. So we're going to bend the wire in with our cutter. Now you could put another bicone on the top of this if you wanted to, but I'm not gonna. I'm just going to make another loop. See, now that one turned out good. You just never know. You never know what you're gonna get. Never know. And twist and add my ear wire. And I'll prove it to you. You don't even notice those loops on the bottom. Who can tell? Can you tell? I can't tell. You can't even see them. Who can tell? They're just fabulous and fun. I'm not worried about those loops and whether they're perfect or not. And once these earrings are on, absolutely nobody is going to see that. So super pretty, super pretty. So that's 2, right? We've made 2 pairs. 2 pairs. We're going to make 1 more pair. Our last pair is with the smallest cone, and we are going to layer 2 wires together. Okay, so we're going to start out with some 20 gauge wire, and we're using the smallest mandrel. So let's take this one off. And again, these are really quick. So these are like instant gratification jewelry ideas for sure. They look like they took a lot of time, but in reality, they didn't. And I love that. So, this one out. Put the skinny one in. And loosen that up enough. It's my small mandrel that always gives me the hardest time. I think there's a thin line between twisting it too far and not twisting it enough. Okay, there we go. All right, so now 20 gauge wire. Oh, I think I used all my 20 gauge wire. I'm gonna cheat and use this one. We'll do the cone together, but we'll do it in rose gold because I used up the last of my 20 gauge wire. But for the sake of making a cone together, because that's what we're here to do, we'll make a cone. Okay, we can do this with the rose gold. We don't have to have a set of earrings. It's totally fine. So we're gonna twist, doing a little twisting. I definitely need wire in a bad way. I agree. Wanda said all of these would look really good on display in a booth. 100%. 100%. They definitely have that kind of artisan feel to them where these are going to set you apart from the guy across from you for sure. Okay, so now that we've made our cone, okay, I'm going to leave it on the Conetastic while I layer another wire to this. Okay, so I layered on this one some 22 gauge of that amethyst. This is the prettiest purple. I've been feeling the purple a lot lately, and when I was checking out the Art Beads website and looking at all the different colors of wire that are available, there are some really beautiful colors. So do yourself a favor, check out the website, look at all of the different colors of the wire that you can use. Grab the purple if you love it, pick some greens and blues to go with it. Like, there's a lot of colored wire and I want all of it. Okay, so I'm gonna leave this on the spool, okay? And I'm gonna leave my cone on the Conetastic, and I'm gonna take my purple wire that I'm gonna layer on top of this, and I'm gonna stick it into the hole there with that other wire, if it'll fit. If it won't, that's okay. You can just hold on to it with your finger. Well, mine's not gonna fit, but I'm gonna do basically the same thing. I'm going to just kind of coil up, and I'm not doing it perfectly. You can if you want to. And then I'm going to come down, and you can twist the tool or you can coil the wire. And you can go back and forth as many times as you want to. And you can use as many different colors as you want to. That's what makes this so much fun. Is that you can really get creative with it. Look how pretty that is. Love that. All right, now we're ready to trim. So first thing we need to do is cut it off of the mandrel, set it free, and then we're going to clean up our ends here. So I'm going to trim, okay, and then I'm going to take a head pin, or you can make a knotted head pin if you want to. I'm going to take another bicone. I'm going to use a 6mm bicone here. Drop that down, and then I'm just going to drop my cone right over the top of that. That little pop of color popping out the bottom. Put another little bicone on top if you want to. Create a loop and you're done. Now I've got a pink one and a silver one. So I don't actually have a set, but they're still pretty. They're still pretty. Either way. Either way. All right. Bend the wire. Coming in with my cutter. Trim. Use my round nose pliers. Grab the wire. And roll back to create a loop. And you're done. So pretty. You could do any colors that you wanted to, any color combinations, any size cone. You can do coiled cones, regular cones. You can put your cones over the top of multi-strand designs. You can put them over the top of chain tassels, fabric tassels, beaded tassels. You can even do seed beads. You can do a coiled layer of seed beads around your cone. So many possibilities. So many. Gina says variety is the spice of life. I agree. I agree. All right, guys, I am going to turn you guys around. Michelle's never heard of the Captastic. So the Conetastic, what they're talking about, guys, the Conetastic actually has a couple of different attachments that you can purchase. I don't know for sure which ones are available on the Art Beads website, but you can get inverted mandrels, and then the Captastic, which we don't have, but just in case you're curious, is you use it in place of these to make spiral bead caps, basically, but you use the handle. So there's a lot of options there as far as the Conetastic is concerned. There's also a couple of different versions of the wire coiling gizmo. Now, we normally have the deluxe version of the wire coiling gizmo. It's out of stock at the moment, but the small version that I used in today's show, which is perfect for projects like this. You don't need 10 tons of coiled wire to create a coil wrapped cone. So the one that I used today is in stock. You can grab it. There's only a handful of them though. But if you guys are interested in getting your hands on more, we definitely can take care of that for you for sure. I do want to hold all the earrings up though, so you can kind of get a size idea on the earrings versus like my big head. But here's this one. Now that's a big earring. Lots of sparkle, so pretty, right? You definitely could make this into a pendant if it's too big of an earring for you. Quit swinging. I want you to... I thought that's really, really pretty. Okay. The other option that we made today are... That color combination is just so sassy and fun. I love that. The teal and the orange. What a weird combo. But it works, right? It works. It makes just such a cool earring. And then last but not least was our multi-layer cone here. And again, just a fun little earring. These are all going to be different than what is across from you at the jewelry fair. You know what I mean? Just like Wanda said, these are artisan looking. They have just a different kind of personality. They don't look like big box store earrings. These look like somebody took a lot of time, and we know that they didn't because you saw me make 3 pairs really quickly. So I love that when I can present to somebody pieces of jewelry that look hard, they look like they took a lot of time, they look like they took a lot of materials, but in reality they did not. Those are the best pieces to put in your booth or on your website to bring people in to look at some of your other pieces that maybe you did spend a lot of time on and a lot of money and effort and time and energy on. But it's nice to have filler, because the filler is that's like your meat and potatoes, right, of your booth or your website. That's where you're really going to get the bulk of your sales. And when those pieces are different than the guy next to you, that's what's really going to set you apart. So all right, everybody, just a gentle reminder, like Michelle is making here in the comments already, be sure that you are closing out your carts, guys. Lots of you all putting things in your carts. You want to definitely close that cart out by the end of the show, because sometimes when you come back, the items are sold out, and I don't want you to miss out on anything that you saw in today's show that you want. You better get it while the getting's good, as they say. It's my Southern coming out there. All right, everybody. I thank all of you for hanging out with me and letting me be a part of your afternoon and a part of your beady journey. Thank you, Beverly from Ohio, for joining us. Thank you, Danielle, Wanda, as always, Kim, Gina. You guys have an amazing rest of your afternoon and enjoy your weekend. Don't forget to set your reminders for all of the fun shows coming up next week. Andrea Bieber is joining the lineup. You don't want to miss that. Be sure that you're signed up for that website so you don't, or the newsletter, so you don't miss anything coming your way from Art Beads. And guys, don't forget about the BeadFest tickets. Those are on sale right now, and we want you to join us if you can. Okay. All right, friends, have an amazing rest of your afternoon and a great weekend, and I will see you same time, same place next week. I love you guys.